Welcome to Quarantine 2020, Episode 11. I'm your host, Kevin Barron. Thank you for sticking with me. I think I have a decent show today. We're going to be reviewing The Shining. I just finished it a couple days ago. Then I watched the movie. I purchased the book on Apple Books, and I think I've got a subscription to Stars just so that I could watch The Shining because it's the only place I could find it. So I've gone through all that stuff. I'm going to go through a quick review for both of them. Hopefully the episode's not too long. The last two were monsters, pretty long. I think they were worth it though. If you'll notice, I've got kind of a green screen. I'm having trouble getting the settings exactly perfect, but rather than looking at that gray wall, you can look at a pixelated background image of a creepy room. So the intro music was played courtesy of Olivia Barron. She plucked that out on the piano. I don't know what you call it when you play on a piano, but that's what it was. She played that for me, so that's our intro music. Hopefully I can get more of those every episode just to make this podcast that much better. Okay, here we go. So first of all, The Shining, the book. The first thing I have to say about it, I read it last summer, and I found the book was fantastic, great writing. It was just really, really long, and there's a lot of parts in it that I just felt like you didn't need information on. Now, maybe a more worldly reader would read it and be enthralled by every single aspect of the story, but I wasn't. I found that there was a lot of extra detail there. Still worth the read, but there's a lot of extra detail. Now, The Shining was fantastic because I felt it was a lot more concise. There wasn't really any part of the book that I thought they didn't need to talk about. They go into Jack's background with his family, which ends up becoming very, very key in the story. So you needed to know that, and it was entertaining. And I mean, Stephen King's a wonderful writer, so everything he writes has purpose and is in you know, it gets your attention. It keeps you reading. So, but I just felt like this one was way more to the point. Every single thing related, and I mean, I'm sure if Stephen King was here to talk to me about it, he'd tell me to cram it up my ass. Every part of it was related too. But that's just how I felt. It wasn't. It was a really good read. I find the way I judge whether or not a book is good isn't really when I'm reading it. I can be pretty attentive to anything I'm currently reading, but when I put it down and I gotta go do something and I'm constantly still thinking about it, that's what, for me, is what I want when I read. And I don't care if it's bad writing. If it keeps me enthralled and I keep reading it, it was successful to me. So like, it did that for sure. Anytime I wasn't reading, I was thinking about events that had occurred, things that might be happening, how it's all going to work out. So it was definitely worth the read. And I mean, it was really hard for me to not know what happens because the book was written in 1977 and the movie was in 1980, and there's some pretty iconic scenes from the movie, so they kind of just spills into pop culture and you know what happens in specific parts. So it was kind of hard to be surprised by things, and I think I got to put the spoiler tag in here just because I hate spoilers with a passion. They're awful people. The book was written before I was born, 1977. The movie was in 1980. If you haven't seen these things by now, it's your fault for watching something that gave you a spoiler. I'm probably going to give away a couple pretty big points in the plot of both of them. So, fair warning, you may want to not watch this one if you don't want to be spoiled. Okay. All right, let's dive right into it. There's times throughout the story, of course, reading that book, I knew Jack was crazy. I don't know anybody who doesn't know that Jack was crazy in The Shining. And I mean, his character's an asshole before he goes to the hotel, but there are times once he's there, the relationship that's been developed between Jack and Danny, you're rooting for him for Danny's sake. I feel like you want Jack to overcome the madness because of the relationship he has with Danny, because of how much Danny loves him. So Jack's character in that situation he's really has a lot to give, because he's kind of an asshole. He breaks his kid's arm in a temper tantrum. He beats the living shit out of a high school student because the high school student slashed his tires. He was a recovering alcoholic, and not that alcoholics are automatically bad, but some of the stuff he did when he was an alcoholic makes you not like him as a character. But then throughout the story, you're really kind of rooting for him, like maybe Jackie can get through this, maybe he'll overcome it. So in terms of Jack, great character, awesome read. You're always interested when he's the point of view that you're reading from. So I loved Wendy's character. She's a strong female lead. She doesn't need to be saved, and technically she saves Halloran at the end. He does all that traveling to get to the hotel, and then Jack hides in the elevator and dummies him as soon as he walks into the hotel. So, and then Wendy finds him and wakes him up and gets him out of the hotel. I mean, really, Halloran didn't do a lot other than bring the skidoo for them to get off of. Sorry, snowmobile? I don't care. And I can't remember what kind. Maybe it was an Arctic cat in the book. I can't remember. So I love Wendy's character. She's she's tough. She's an awesomely strong female lead. Probably one of the best points of that is when the elevator just starts running in the middle of the night for no reason, and Jack is still trying to hide the fact that he has seen or has had similar visions to what Danny's been having, and he just tries to pawn it off as, oh, it's a electrical short, no big deal, no big deal. And Wendy leans down into the elevator stopped halfway between floors, and she leans in and pulls out party streamers and things like that and starts screaming, is that a short, Jack, is that a short? And she really comes to the conclusion that she's going to have to do this on her own, and Jack's not going to be able to help her. So I loved Wendy's character. It was fantastic. Danny's character is a rock star with his super shine, whatever it is. His ability to call Dick Halloran all the way from Florida is he's got his super shining, and he uses super shining to save himself, and he uses super shining and his smarts and cleverness to remember something that Jack forgot and get himself out of it. So I like Danny's character. I like Wendy's character more. I think she was more critical, and it's also always awesome to see a strong female lead. So I think everybody cheers for Dick Halloran the whole time. This poor guy, though, he does all that work just to get, hit in the head with a mallet as soon as he walks in the door. So those are all the main characters. I love at the end when you think everything's safe. Oh, the hotel's exploded, the boiler went supernova, everything's on fire. Whatever the evil entity is dying or it's dead, and Halloran goes into the shed to grab some blankets, and it almost gets him to kill Danny and Wendy again. So suspenseful, because you're at a point where you're like, oh, it's over now. They're safe, and then all of a sudden, they're not. So it's this great little twist, suspenseful to keep you in it. So I really, really like that stuff. One knock I'd have to say is, for a neurotic person to read a book about a man being secluded and stuck, isolated, quarantined, if you want to say it, and going crazy, maybe it's not the best book to read right now at this time in the world. I'm just suggesting it. I think I handled it okay. I'm not too worried about going crazy. I have my podcast. This keeps me sane. So that's probably the only knock I'd have on it right now. Moving on to the movie. 2 words is utter shit. No wonder Stephen King didn't like it. You have really bad acting. And I don't want to... not Jack Nicholson as he's going crazy. All the stuff prior to Jack's character going crazy, it's not very good. And part of that might be the dialogue. The dialogue is just awful. It looks acted. It looks forced. And maybe it's Jack Nicholson's look, but he looks crazy. the whole time. They never develop that bond between him and Danny in the movie. So you just think that Jack hates Danny, and it's pretty calm. Yeah, not a big deal for you to kill him. You know, you don't like him. Whereas in the book, he loved Danny, and Danny loved him, and he didn't want to kill Danny. That's why you can tell there's something else at work. So that part's bad. I mean, once Jack starts to go crazy, Jack Nicholson's unbelievable. Like the scene walking up the stairs when he's trying to stop Wendy from hitting him with the bat, that scene's awesome. Very well done. But the acting besides that is just not, it's not great. It really detracts from some of the amazing cinematography, some of the shots they have of the hotel in the mountains. I mean, even the opening scene with Jack driving the Beetle to the Outlook Hotel, it's awesome. It looks so cool. The camera movement scenes, the chase scenes, and the dolly shots that you've got following different characters through different parts of the hotel, fantastic. Really, really, really awesome. But the bad acting, the bad dialogue, that's really tough, and it spoils something with the iconic scene of "Here's Johnny." All the other stuff really spoils it. I understand that adaptations have to be made and elements have to be changed when you're adapting something for the screen. I get that, but I don't understand, and I will never understand why they have to change gigantic things and little things that don't matter. Are I don't understand why you change those. It doesn't make any sense to me. The hedge animals in 1980, that probably would have been tough to do special effect wise. The place where they shot the hotel, and I'm guessing on this stuff, but the maze was probably already there, so they didn't want to have to take that down. And that maze that's there was, if it's real, pretty fantastic, so they wanted to use it. I understand changing that, but then you go down to these little things, and it's like, why was he drinking bourbon when he's in the hotel? He drinks martinis. He always drinks martinis. Why change it? Is just the bartender didn't have to make it? Like, teach the actor how to make a martini or fake it. Just little things like that bother me. Why you had to change those things. But now the big things that you change. Wendy's an awful female lead. She doesn't do anything but cry and scream and run, and her arm flailing. I'm panicked. Is really bad, and I feel bad bashing the actress, but it's not good. It really takes away from the really good parts of the movie, and it takes away from the book where Wendy's character was strong. Like in the movie, she doesn't do anything. She doesn't even stab Jack. She just slashes him on the hand once. In the book, she buries a kitchen knife to the hilt in his back. So she's really, really weak. I don't like it. Besides the fact that I don't think the performance is very good, I don't like the way they changed her character to just be pretty one-dimensional, just waiting for somebody to come save her. So I didn't like that part. That's one of the big things. I don't understand why they changed that. Why they couldn't have kept her strong. The boiler not exploding? What the hell? That's the whole point of the movie. That's the whole point of the book. That's the thing that Danny remembers that Jack doesn't. And it, like, the way it stands right now, the entity in the hotel, which they do an awful job even explaining, the entity is still alive. So the next people that come to the hotel, they're just going to go crazy too. So the way they do in the book with the boiler exploding and the whole thing burning down, it's just so much better. And I mean, it's not that it's better. It's the way it was supposed to be. It doesn't make sense. Jack just wanders into the maze and dies. 20 minutes earlier, he was trapped in a super closed off pantry with a lock, and the entity just lets him out. And then he dies in a maze? That doesn't make any sense. Why wouldn't the entity have been like, go left, right, turn right, okay, you're out? It's ridiculous. It's really stupid. I didn't like that part. It didn't make sense to me. So that's the basis behind it. I understand why Stephen King doesn't like it. You know, there's a lot of movies out there that have been made from books that I think are pretty shitty. World War Z. I can't even believe the movie World War Z, which was actually, it was an okay movie, but it doesn't relate to the book at all, other than being called World War Z. The Bourne Ultimatum, the Bourne Supremacy, that whole series, it's not even close to the book. I mean, some of the events occur, but the main themes are all wrong. I'm going to put this one in that category. It's just not close enough to the book to even compare. It's very frustrating, and I don't know why they wouldn't do that. I would love, with the success of It Chapter 1 and 2, I would love them to redo The Shining now. I mean, it's been 40 years? 1980? I think my math is right. It's been 40 years since The Shining, and they did It back in the 80s as well, so I'd love to see another Shining movie made. Maybe have it just a little bit tighter to the book. I think it would be exciting. So anyway, either way, I still recommend you read the book for sure. Watch the movie because it's an iconic movie. Some of those really iconic scenes are in there. It's worth watching. The music's really cool. I'm hoping that my review doesn't take you away from watching the movie. It's worth the watch, but I just don't like how it doesn't connect to the book enough. So thank you very much for watching. This was episode 11 of Quarantine 2020, and I can't wait to see you for episode 12. Have a good night.